only one thing that can bring our nation down: our dependence on foreign countries for food and energy. Agriculture is the backbone of our economy. Wise words of former U.S. Congressman John Salazar. They ring resoundingly true of Nigeria's economic history and the current fiscal crisis. Nigeria, a country richly blessed in human and natural resources, but one which has continued to operate a rent and import-dependent economy. The folly of Nigeria's long neglect of our endowment in agriculture and other natural resources is now made obvious in the overdependence on foreign countries for staples and the consequent mounting food import bill. The rising youth unemployment, along with the social impact of insecurity, and of course the current fiscal crisis brought about by a blinding dependence on oil. As the current economic crisis aroused the country from its oil-induced slumber to the realization of the place of agriculture in national development, we on Farmers Market have resolved to sound the gong until agriculture takes its rightful place. Farmers Market promotes Nigeria's agricultural prowess, celebrates successes, identifies the challenges besetting the sector, and advocates policies and programs that will help grow Nigeria's agro-economy. Last week on Farmers Market. This is a cottage plant set up to process tomato. It's under lock and key. Nobody within its premises. No tomatoes to process.
There's no house in this my territory that doesn't grow tomato.
So that would mean that a lot of people depend on tomato.
A lot of people, yes, I'm telling you. You know, people are not suffering. That's why, because last season's tomato didn't yield.
This week, it's a potpourri of development in Nigeria's agricultural sector. First, an update on efforts to tackle the ravaging pest that has prized tomatoes out of the reach of the majority of Nigerians. Then, a new thing, a plan to create a roadmap for Nigeria's self-sufficiency in livestock and dairy production. Varieties of highly nutritious rice in Abakaliki, Ofada, Kano. Yet Nigeria wastes billions on rice importation. Cocoa in the southwest, and yet top dollar is spent on imported chocolate and beverages. Fruits rot in Benue, Nasarawa, Kogi, yet imported juice line the shops. 82 million hectares of rich arable land, yet no jobs, and food insecurity threatens.
Our real wealth is in farming, livestock, hatcheries, fisheries, horticulture, and forestry.
It's time to act different. Time to bring Nigerian farmers to the market. Farmers Market, growing Nigeria's agro-economy. Showing every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. on AIT. Almost 2 weeks after the Nigerian government made its first announcement on the Tuta Absoluta pest ravaging tomato farms in parts of the country and making the vegetable an essential commodity, the treatment of affected farms is yet to begin. Tomato farmers have been expectant since the Minister of Agriculture gave this emphatic commitment that the treatment of infected farms will begin immediately.
Unfortunately, ordinary pesticides cannot deal with this Tuta Absoluta because the moth has a way of multiplying so fast, almost 10, 12 times a year, producing 250 offspring per cycle. And it has built resistance against the normal run of pesticides. So we're in contact now with a group which has dealt with this in other countries and which is offering us a solution. In the next few days, we shall get to work on this.
That was a pronouncement that raised the hopes of the farmers who were counting their losses and hoping to put the disappointment of the past season behind them. Well, they still have to wait some more for the intervention of the federal government to produce some concrete results. As farmers in affected parts of Kaduna State await government intervention, majority of them have cleared their Tuta Absoluta ravaged fields and are now planting other crops like rice, cowpeas, as well as a variety of fruits and vegetables. The farmers would rather be planting tomatoes in preparation for the profitable end-of-year sales.
I think at the beginning of the year, the full basket, because of its availability, everybody has grown so much. It was sold at 500 naira, 600 naira, sometimes even downward 300 naira per basket at the first harvest. Gradually it changed. By the second harvest, it grew to 1,500, 2,000. But I want to assure you, towards the end, which that was our aim, that we are going to reap the benefit of our sweat. When we were aiming to sell it at 15,000, 20,000, we now have this disaster of this pest that infested. Simply to say that tomato is one of the things we depend on in Magalpi local government.
God will decide our future now. Because true to God, we depend on this tomato here. Even Dangote, as I heard, has closed a big company here. He planted his own, but the one has gone. So how do we do here? This pains me a lot. People here are suffering. Even person will eat, believe you me, once a day here with their own children.
Now they are forced to reminisce on the challenges they have encountered in the production of tomatoes in the last 2 years, when some of the farmers say they have noticed the strange disease. If the observation of the farmers are anything to go by, Tuta Absoluta may have been with us for at least 2 years.
We started experiencing this thing in the last 2 years. Sometimes we plant, it starts growing, and then disease strikes, taking everything with it.
We have never seen such kind of problem like this year, because I've been in this farming for over 35 years, as you see me here. When we start clearing our farms to start planting our tomatoes, at that time there is no problem. We clear the farm, we make region, we start planting it. So unfortunately, when we plant it by first week of our planting, that was in the middle of February, we plant our crops. And we have been watering. We have been fumigating. We have done all what necessary things that we're supposed to do, but there is no improvement. But those who plant early, like first week of January to the first week of February, they get small, they yield small. At that time, there is no excess heat of the sun. But during the middle of February, for second week of March, from there, the climate change. But when the climate change, at that time, no matter how you did, you cannot do anything. It won't grow. As you plant it, it will stay like that as you see it.
The failure, or worse still, the absence of agricultural extension services for the tomato farmers may have contributed to the present crisis, as most of the farmers say they have had no help whatsoever.
Never, nobody came ever. Nobody ever came to us and inform us and ask us, well, what, even this is the first time, I'm so happy you people come, give a concern to us.
we are the first.
You are the first people to come and talk, either in the radio or in the whatever, visual media here.
Now, I went to the local government just around the corner here.
Yeah.
They're supposed to do something about it, they're not?
And they didn't do anything about it. I'm not reporting to them, but they were supposed to. They were supposed to. Yeah, their own thing, isn't it? Their money is our own money here, people's money. They help us if we ever in problem. They help us. That's why the money is there.
The agri-extension workers that we are having, after looking through, we've never had that experience, so we don't even have something to fall back to say, okay, let's use this type of pesticide or let's use that of action to do it. We just left everything to God.
In February 2015, the administration of former President Goodluck Jonathan approved a national policy on staple crops processing zones to guide the development, management, and operation of staple crops production in the country. The idea was to develop commercial agriculture, add value to staple crops, create jobs, and revive the country's rural economy. It was also meant to attract private sector food processing companies into rural areas to reduce post-harvest losses and cut food import.
I think the problem is not just ordinary government policies per se, but even the policies that are already in place. How effective have they been? Take for instance the staple crop zone, processing zone. These are zones that should actually take care of all the staple crops like tomatoes, where the farmers have access to inputs and access to storage facilities that can also store these products. What do? You come to a policy. It's not about coming on TV to actually make policies or make pronouncements. Infrastructure should be kept in place. What kind of infrastructure should be kept in place? You look at it. Let's stop putting so much pressure or so much emphasis on production alone. If it's about production, we have the arable land, we have the hectares of land to produce tomatoes in large quantity, in commercial quantity, that can even contribute to the GDP of this country. What about processing? Nobody's talking about that. Even, yes, people are coming up with, the Dangote paste, the one or two other individuals trying to set up. What about storage? Why can't I move into a shop and get a tomato that has been harvested for the past 2 years, still fresh? It is possible. Nobody is talking about the storage facilities. Let these farmers have access to it.
Despite the myriad of problems which have been further compounded by Tuta Absoluta, experts say self-sufficiency in tomato paste production by the end of the year is not an impossible task.
We can achieve self-sufficiency when it comes to tomatoes if we plan, if we have the political will, if we are what I call serious-minded when it comes to being sufficient. What do? We start what? I believe in Nigeria, and I know we have various research institutes. Let's look inward. It's not about going to Kenya. It's not about going to England. Let's look inward. There are a lot of things that should be in the university shelves, bookshelves, libraries. I believe a lot of people have worked on tomatoes. Let's look at producing or developing disease-resistant tomatoes. That is African friendly, that is Nigerian friendly, that is Kaduna friendly, that is Plateau friendly. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that when we look at that, we will not look at it, okay, how long is it going to take us? The next 2-3 years? There's something, agriculture sufficiency is not oil and gas. I continue to tell people. It's not something you put in today, the next harvest season you start making so much profit. It gives time. But at the end of the day, it is sustainable than oil.
The announcement of the Minister of Science and Technology that an agency under it had found a cure for Tuta Absoluta may just amount to crying wolf if what is counterpart in the Ministry of Agriculture is anything to go by.
NARIT in Zaria has been working on this. This is a new pest using locally available material. They developed a pesticide agent, very effective in combating this very pest that has ravaged our tomato farms. As a matter of fact, I didn't want to say it there. There is even an industry that is producing a factory, producing this very agent that is very effective. So there is no reason for us to go outside to look for a solution when we have a solution here in the country.
There's an extract from the neem seed, that's the dogonyaro seed, called azarashin. That is the chemical element that can control this disease. But they don't use it anymore in many countries because it has harmful effect on bees, and bees are plenty on tomato farms transferring pollen. Number two, they don't have enough to cover 1,000 hectares of land. So when we say we're doing investigation to find where we can get enough, it's not because we love importation. No, it's not because we want to waste money. We have a challenge covering 1,000 hectares. And definitely the Institute may have a small solution. It's not enough to cover our needs. And their production capacity is not that big yet. But we will work with them so they can develop that facility and do what is necessary so that we can also contain these problems in future. We appreciate the contribution of the Ministry of Science and Tech.
In essence, the wait of tomato farmers for a solution to Tuta Absoluta continues. Varieties of highly nutritious rice in Abakaliki, Ofada, Kano. Yet Nigeria wastes billions on rice importation. Cocoa in the southwest, and yet top dollar is spent on imported chocolate and beverages. Fruits rot in Benue, Nasarawa, Kogi, yet imported juice line the shops. 82 million hectares of rich arable land, yet no jobs, and food insecurity threatens.
Our real wealth is in farming, livestock, hatcheries, fisheries, horticulture, and forestry.
It's time to act different. Time to bring Nigerian farmers to the market. Farmers Market, growing Nigeria's agro-economy. Showing every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. on AIT. One area in which Nigeria has a high advantage over other countries in Africa is livestock production. The last census of livestock taken in 2011 shows that Nigeria has the largest stock of cattle, goats, sheep, pigs, camel, chicken, ducks, turkey, and donkeys than any other country on the continent. Nigeria is also the largest producer of livestock in West Africa with 31.66% of the region's cattle, 43.3% of sheep, 51.98% of goats, 57.11% of pigs, and 99.38% of poultry. Despite this, animal products form a considerable part of Nigeria's food import burden. 19 million cattle, yet Nigeria expends $1.3 billion annually on milk imports. These are the problems that stakeholders will be finding solutions to as they converge on Abuja this week for a livestock and dairy development retreat called by the federal government. The Minister of Agriculture has been giving Nigerians a hint on its solutions to the problems.
We intend to establish large hectareages of paddocks or grazing fields with highly improved tropical grasses and legumes. You can see the picture over there of different types of grasses, samples of which we already have, and the planting of which we hope to begin during this rainy season. We intend to provide irrigation for all year-round commercial fodder production to enhance the settlement of pastoralists. And we intend to spread the production of fodder across the length and breadth of Nigeria, north, south, east, or west, because fodder production is good business. the cattle and sheep and goat improvement through expanded breeding programs that will also aggressively address the issue of quality and quantity in livestock production using artificial insemination. We shall pursue the establishment of clusters of dairy farmers which will be equipped with milk collection facilities, schools for children of the herdsmen, markets for their products, and one new dimension we intend to pursue: to discuss with the Minister of Internal Affairs and train special units of the civil defense to protect large ranches against rustlers.
One of the testy issues which the retreat will be looking at is that of grazing reserves for cattle in the country. The recent violent attacks of communities in several parts of the country has made cattle herding a major test for national security and integration, with some states expressing vehement opposition to the proposal of redefining the country's grazing reserve policy. A federal government seems to have made it a voluntary venture. According to the Minister of Agriculture, 11 states have so far contributed 55,000 hectares of land for the purpose of establishing ranches for Nigeria's nomadic pastoralists.
A hectare is about the size of a football field. We think that if we have the capacity to grass up those large areas, there may be no need for cattle to even roam from north to south. And that's what we're hoping to achieve. So, for northerners to go to the south and take their land and Islamize the south is out of the question. That is not the intention, and definitely as a ministry, that's not what we are here for. We're even encouraging southerners who want to keep cattle to come and join us, and we can help them develop their own ranches so they too can keep cows and feed them well. But definitely the intention from this ministry is not to seize land from anybody, except where the governors have said, fine, we have the land and we can allow you develop paddocks so that herdsmen can come and operate under certain strict regulations. Our climate is very good. If we can irrigate, we can almost bale grass every 2 months and develop hay and store for the dry season.
Farmers Market will be giving you more on the ongoing retreat on livestock and dairy production in Nigeria next week. That's the program for this week. Next week, we will be keeping you up to speed with progress on the treatment of tomato farms infected by the Tuta Absoluta pest, plus livestock and dairy development roadmap. Farmers Market is a focus on agriculture as a veritable alternative to oil in Nigeria's quest for economic development. Be part of this paradigm shift. Let's harness our agricultural potentials across the country. Let's celebrate our successes. Let's bring the Nigerian farmers to the market and develop our agroeconomy once again. You can see this program again whenever you want to. Just visit our website www.farmersmarketng.com. For feedback and sponsorship considerations, please contact us on 009-566-0090. Email us on info@farmersmarketng.com. Follow us on Twitter @farmersmarketng. And like our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/farmersmarketng. Farmers Market returns same time, same station next week. Thanks for watching.